welcome to edition 109 of all Killa No Filla podcast with me, Rachel Fairburn, and Kiri Pritchard-McLean. Just before we start, we'll do our usual disclaimer. This isn't hero worship. We do this podcast because we have a mutual interest in serial killers. As long as we are doing this podcast, it stops us from writing to them in prison.
109 sounds like a lot of episodes, doesn't it? But one of the things that we were doing when we were doing our 10th anniversary tour, we had this like intro written, and the amazing Kyle Smith-Biner was doing the voiceover. So it's like 10 years. And then what was it? And it was like over 100 episodes. And we were like,
that's
that
not
sounds
enough.
shit.
That's not enough.
That's not enough.
Also,
when one a month.
When it did say it's all been leading to this, I thought, has it? Is this what? I don't think we set out to lead to anything, to be honest with you. But it sounds good, so
Sounds
keep it in.
good. Yeah, sounds good. My partner, incredibly skillfully, in about an hour, wrote the intro music
Very
for it.
good.
Nuts.
Well
Absolutely
done.
nuts.
Well done.
Well done.
Well done.
Another thing you can do, you
Well
obnoxious
done.
arsehole.
So you're telling me about this one.
I'm telling you a
You're
story.
telling me a story because sometimes it just cuts down on the prep, doesn't it?
It does. It means we can do more episodes.
We can do more episodes, yeah.
And let us know, actually, because we've been filming them. What's your vibe on that? What's your vibe? This is mainly to the people watching it. You're not a fan, are you?
I just hate this culture of Owen, you're brilliant, but I hate this culture of constantly having to be fucking filmed at every turn and juncture. Like I'm so bored of it. It doesn't do well for my bonds anyway. I'm ever so brave, and it has a real bad effect on me. But also the other day I did a podcast for somebody, and
you told me this, yeah.
So because I've got melasma on my forehead.
What is melasma for people
it's
who don't know?
Skin patches. So it's like you have darker patches, and I don't like it. So I wanted it gone. So I had a laser on my face, of which I have to have another appointment. It's done wonders, right? Done wonders. Painful, so painful. I also had a couple of thread veins removed, which she did for free, and I had thread veins under my nose that I was very conscious of.
Oh, I've got them.
And
another thing to try and be conscious about.
Well, I've always been very conscious about them, and she just zapped them and they'd gone. I was like, oh, man, that's amazing. Anyway, so the thing is, I wanted this because I didn't like the melasma. Mm-hmm. I had the laser. Also, it's very good as well just for general skin health. Mm-hmm. You're into that kind of shite. And
I love that kind of
You do like
shite.
that kind of thing. Anyway, so a couple of days later, your face is very, very red afterwards and swollen, as you would expect.
Yeah.
Painful. And you look like a big red balloon. So I'd said to somebody that I would do their podcast, and I asked them not to put a video.
So it's recorded on Zoom, so there's... So
no,
you
it
can
was
see
recorded
each
in person.
Okay.
But I was constantly, I was like, if you are going to put it, can you just mention that I've had a laser on my face? Because basically it looks like you've had a bad allergic reaction. That's
Right.
what it looks like. And I get very stressed about it. Because, well, basically, and I've mentioned before, I do have body dysmorphia, I have a genuine diagnosis. And it does stress me out. And I was like, oh, fucking, that's going to be in there now. And it's like, well, I'm not going to share it, am I? Do you know what I mean? I just think not everything has to be filmed. Not that this is fine, this is all right. But I don't know how many people watch podcasts. I don't watch them.
That would be interesting to know, yeah, if people are enjoying... I think it's good because, like, the clips are fun to share. But also, like, we do live in different countries and it's a big schlep for you. So, yeah, let us know if you're in let us know if you see the worth in what you're watching right now.
I'm not averse to it, you see. But I think... Oh, shit. I think it does, looks nice.
Looks nice.
But whatever,
Just putting it out there. So, we were just talking about how... One of the things we were talking about is how brilliant Owen is. Yes. And he did some amazing footage for us on the opening night of our tour that you've probably seen by now. Some brilliant
might even
Vox
be in
spots.
it.
It's a hilarious cavalcade of absolutely hammered Glaswegian women trying not to swear and not always succeeding. It's great. And there's like an opening thing of our set and like us walking on stage, a little backstage thing. Really great. And I was just saying, I wish he could have done that for my opening night, but he can't be at that Machynlleth Comedy Festival. And I said, because he's going to see Bluey. And you went, I beg your pardon.
Yeah.
Because you hadn't put two and two together.
I know what Bluey is, but I also know what a Bluey is. So
I also know what Owen's like. And then you've got a real issue with Bluey.
I've got an issue with Bluey. I just hate this thing of like parents having to find a thing for kids but it's for me as well. Do you know what I mean? Like, when I was...
Spoken truly like someone who doesn't have to watch loads of fucking shit kids telly all the time.
But also, I just think like, like when I was growing up, what, Gilbert's fridge, who's that for? Me, as a kid. Just a green monster with a fridge. Trapdoor.
Oh, yeah.
There's nothing life... Count Duckula, it's just a bit of a romp in it. Nanny's going to walk through another wall and make everyone laugh.
Love Count Duckula.
I just... You know what it is? It's this... Oh, yeah, well, Blue's really good, actually, because they do a really important episode, and it was about... I'm like, oh, my fucking God, shut up. Shut up.
Well, apparently, like, Peppa Pig's quite sort of... I mean, it's 25 years Peppa Pig's been going, and I know that because Absolute Clang coming up, they were, like, doing a cinema release of some episodes, and they wanted to re-record some of the voices, so yours truly is a voice in Peppa Pig. I play a fashion-loving woman who works in a bridal shop who sorts a cow out with a wedding dress called Ms. Leopard, and I know
a lot of cows have got married.
As absolute cougars have given them advice on what to wear. But Peppa Pig apparently is quite sort of like the dad's useless, and it's just. Yeah,
but this is it now. It's like, why is everyone reading so fucking much into everything? Like, oh, you're anti-Peppa Pig now, are you? Okay, cool.
No, I don't think they're anti-Peppa Pig.
You're so fucking wise. Oh, that pig is not for me. Oh, that daddy pig is so feckless. Do you know what, though? Some
dads are feckless.
Some men are fucking rubbish.
Sorry, Owen.
There you go. Some men are rubbish. Some kids are annoying. Lisa Simpson annoys me. She's irritating.
She's great.
She's a fucking arsehole. Right? She irritates me, but, I'm not, like, reading too much into it. I just think, just shut up, all of yous. Also, cartoon voices. I must, at least 3 times a month, get a read-through for a sassy parrot. You know what I mean? Or an annoying penguin.
You should just send off this clip of you ranting about...
That's what comes through. And I'd love to do a cat. Have I done something? I might have done... I've done a kids short, like, podcast story thing. But, every it's like, oh, putting you up for this. It's, mad penguin or crazy dinosaur, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Not got one yet, but...
Hardline bitch.
Hardline bastard, yeah. Angry dog.
Speaking of hardline bastard...
XL bullet. What do you mean I've got to wear this muzzle? Rishi, you?
Excuse me.
You all right there?
Yes, I am. So this episode we're going to be looking at Iceland's apparently only serial killer.
Oh.
So his name is Björn Pétursson, but he was known as Axlar Björn because they do that thing in Iceland that they actually do in Wales. So he was from the area of Axlar, so his farm, he's sort of named after his farm, which is very common around here that you would say sort of like Rachel Tinewith.
Yeah. That's how it works.
Rachel condemned building. So the time that all this is happening, he was born in 1555. It's an interesting time in Icelandic history.
It's that old.
Yeah, this is a historical romp, mate.
Okay.
I nearly didn't do it.
I mean, we did hear before, you would listen to something, and Owen and I heard hung, drawn and quartered, and I thought, must be an old one.
Yeah.
Either that or they're a bit different in Iceland.
Well, I tell you what, a lot of this is, I'm going to tell you as much as I've found, because the problem with this is loads of the information was recorded 200 to 300 years after it actually happened. And also there's a load of kind of folklore folded in with this.
Yeah.
So
let me sit back.
He was a man. It was a farm. The farm still exists.
That's as much as you've got.
Yeah. And these people were real. And he did murder people. But I tell you what, you can be on the old bullshit alarm for this. And what you think was true and what wasn't. So Iceland, this time, it was basically... like the Norwegians had kind of settled there and the Vikings weren't there anymore, and it had moved away from the old Norse gods to Christianity. Mm-hmm. So it was at a time when the weather was particularly cold. It was colder than when the Vikings were there. So it was just like a very hard time to live in quite
this is, I always think, when I see people going, of all the places I want to go, I've never fancied Iceland. And I honestly, like, every time I see people posting pictures, oh, we're in Iceland, I'm like, it looks fucking freezing. That looks not for me. It makes my feet feel cold.
I don't think it's that cold. From when I remember going, I don't remember it. Do you know what it's like? A crap day here.
Ugh.
You know when it's like grey and rubbish and a bit.
Yeah.
Never like today, really.
All the time.
Yeah.
Now. I swear to God, this has been the fucking longest winter.
It really has.
I've ever known.
And I don't want to be like an absolute baby, but I messaged my friends a couple of weeks ago and I was like, I just need 4 days of sunshine to not feel like the world is still ending.
I need warmth.
Yeah.
I can't even go on sunbeds anymore because of this melasma. I need warmth. Give me something.
You can see why all those racists move out to the coast of Spain. Like, I can absolutely see why you get sick of our 7-month winters.
I can't, I like winter and I like autumn, but please, God, like, I think my feet have been cold since last October.
Adam, who's in tarot. So he's a very brilliant, incredible guy who's doing so much nuts work at the moment. He's like writing a Netflix script this week, and then he's writing Channel 4 series this, and then a BBC. Like, he's working at such a high level, but he's out every night, either working on stuff till like 1 o'clock in the morning, or he'll go and see like a play or something like that. But what he hasn't got, what he's wearing for shoes for the whole winter was socks with sliders, and the sliders that we bought for a tarot show. And we're all like, why aren't you wearing shoes? And he's got this weird thing in his head. He's like, I haven't got time. And I'm like, well, you absolutely have. So I bought him a pair of shoes then and there. I was like, what size are you? Do you like New Balance? Great. I just got some like shoes off, like new shoes, but off Vinted. So it went to his house and he was like, really, like, I love these shoes so much. I love them so much. And he said, I realised I've been absolutely cold. I could never keep warm for the whole of winter. And I put the shoes on.
Now he's warm.
And now he's warm. I'm like, yeah, because you've been wearing fucking flip-flops in December,
You're
you
right,
mad
for
bastard.
Netflix. Adam. Right. I'm getting some socks for him as well. There is nothing worse than having cold feet. Sometimes your feet are so cold that you have to have a bath to warm them.
Yeah.
And then it hurts when you get in the bath.
Yeah.
I'm sick of the grey, cold
Princess
weather.
Margaret.
Princess burnt her feet.
Burnt her feet in the bath.
Burnt her feet.
Because she was hammered.
Ooh, scalded herself in the bath.
Awful.
Terrible business.
So, yeah, during this time now, there's a very low crime rate, but the crime that's around is thievery, basically.
High treason.
No,
treachery.
no. Basically, there's such a low population, it's almost like socialism, because they're like, listen, there's no point like murdering anyone because there's only 9 of us on this island, so we all need to get on. There's a bit of stealing that goes on because everyone's poor. So what they were phasing out is a thing that was popular in Viking times, which is blood vengeance, which is i.e. like, you've crossed me, you've wronged me, and now I will have blood vengeance.
Bring it back. Bring it back. Bring it back.
But it's a bit like, I guess the modern thing would be for us is honour killing, right? Is the equivalent. So yeah, blood vengeance was being phased out. But as a result, there was this weird time where there wasn't, they didn't have like a police force, and they did have a bit of a legal system, but it was very weak. And basically it was up to people, landowners, kind of rich landowners, to be fair and to kind of bring people to justice.
Oh, good luck with that.
Yeah, exactly. Always, of course, rich landowners have been the good guys. So you have a couple called Peter and Sigrida, and they're farmers, and they have 3 children, the youngest of which is Björn Pétursson, who I'm going to be talking about. So they grew up in this really pretty part of Iceland on sort of a peninsula. Now, when Sigrida was pregnant with Björn, the birth was the pregnancy was different to everything. So for a start, she was like, "Oh, I've got mad cravings. For human blood."
Oh my God.
Yeah, and her husband...
Bullshit.
Is that a bullshit alarm going off? Okay, well, okay, see if this convinces you. She's like, I'm really craving human blood and I don't know why, really stressing her out. And her husband really loved her, so he was like, fine, and cut a bit of his toe, and she would have the blood. Yeah, I know. That's why I don't think it's true. Because you're not going to be like... I'd be like, give it... Hand?
Toe?
Toe's not right, is it?
No. I mean, how much blood are you going to get out of your fucking toe anyway?
Well, you can... It's at the end, isn't it?
It's bullshit. Go on.
So yeah, cut a bit of his toe. She would drink the blood, and it would sort of satiate her. But she said that after she started drinking the blood, I'd be very interested if there's anyone who has had cravings, has been pregnant, had cravings, if blood was one of the things.
Iron? Yes.
Well, there we go. There's no Guinness then, right? So I guess if you want your iron...
Yeah, but I mean, wouldn't it be stuff like coal? Don't people crave charcoal and shit like that?
But sometimes soil people crave, and someone I knew, they said that they'd ate so healthily with their first baby, everything was organic and all that kind of stuff, and loads of veg, and yet with their second kid, all they wanted was, you know, the Victoria sponges you get from a corner shop that's in a packet that's got no best before date. She's like, I just would eat like 2 of those a day. And was like, I felt so bad for this baby, but it's like, it's what the baby wants. The baby wants a cake that will never go off.
Brilliant. I love that.
So
I do love a corner shop cake, to be honest with you.
Do you?
Sambros near me. I like the proper plastic.
Yeah.
It's going to last forever. It's in the bottom of the sea. Little fish in it. The coconut and jam cakes.
Oh, yeah.
And you look at the back and it's like, get that in. Yes, please.
If someone has got the ability to make a gif of Rachel going, get that in, I would absolutely love that.
Also, because I am not drinking again, I crave... I don't really like sweets or anything. I've never used sweets historically and stuff like that. I now crave sweets, chocolate,
sugary.
Sweet
stuff.
Yes, sugary. Like, that's what I...
Interesting. Yeah. Very interesting.
Love it now.
So, when she was drinking the blood,
God.
just to bring us back to it, she would end up having incredibly vivid nightmares to the point where she had genuine sort of trauma from them, and she felt so ashamed of them. She didn't confide in her husband. But one day, another woman that she worked alongside, she was sort of a farmhand on their farm, she said, I'm having the most like nuts dreams, and it's only since I've been pregnant, and it's making me crave blood. And then the woman was like, yeah, well, I've actually thought for a while you're carrying a demon. So, yeah, there's different reports. Some say she says, I think this baby's going to be a monster, you know, the mum.
Yeah.
And some of it says that the woman's like, yeah, I've just got a sense it's a demon.
Yeah.
So, but they basically, there was a kind of worry before Bjorn even arrived into the world. So he does arrive into the world, as I say, youngest. He's got one older brother and one older sister. He is, when they describe him, they're doing that thing where they're trying to make them sound like a serial killer. So they were like, you know, he was an unruly young boy. He had a big temper. He was very strong. And like, he just sounds like a lot of boys that I know.
A lot of people.
Yeah, exactly. So, but apparently the flip side of him being very sort of like tempestuous and sort of like fighting a lot was that he was really strong, and he was actually a really good worker. So he was sent away, and this is quite common to a rich farmer to work on his land. Now, he really impressed this rich farmer, whose name is Omer, and he was quite fond of him. And Omer's son, which is, let me say this right, so Omer's son...
I don't think they're going to write in if you get it wrong.
But I just don't... who knows? Some Icelandic people might. So, yeah, he was sent away to live with this rich farmer, Omer, and Omer's son was called Gumunda, and they became really good friends, Bjorn and Gumunda. So he was very good friends with the rich farmer's son. So... he's sort of doing jobs here and there. He's always working. He's always hustling. Now, at this time, it was quite important to go to mass, as this, you know, Christianity is a big part of the culture now. And he's like, nah. So there's this story about how he sleeps through mass. And while he's sleeping through mass and his rest of his family are there, he has this very vivid dream in which a man comes to him, and he's got this dish, and on it is a chain and this big pile of meat, basically. And he said, try the meat. And so he eats it, and he says it's the most tender, like beautiful steak he's ever had. It's delicious. He just wants to eat more and more and more. And he eats 18 pieces of this meat in this dream. And on the 19th piece, he goes to eat it, and he becomes sick. And then the stranger says, what I want you to do now is go to the top of the mountain that's near you. I can't pronounce the name of it. Apologies. And at the top of that mountain is going to be a really distinct pair of rocks, a very small one, a very big one. Shaped like tits. Shaped like a tit. So one small one, one big one. We all have one. There's no shame. It's you know, it's normal to be about a size different. So he says, go, and up there under the rock, you will find something that will make you famous and will decide what you're going to do for the next few years.
So was it Simon Cowell?
It was Simon Cowell's old face was under the small rock. So he goes up he wakes up and is really excited. So the next day he goes up the mountain. It's not like a huge, but it's kind of the kind of thing you can hike up in a few hours. So he goes to the top of the mountain. Now this is like all, you know, formerly volcanic ash, and then at the top is all the like lava, so it's quite jagged, and he sees this really distinct small rock and a big rock. He lifts up the small rock, but under it is a Viking axe. Not a massive one, but just like a handheld one. And apparently
he took it on the Antiques Roadshow.
He took it on the Antiques Roadshow, and Fiona Bruce was murdered by him. Yeah, so he finds this axe, and he says he immediately is like obsessed with it. He's like captivated by how like the sun hits it, and he says he feels like the Viking ancestors, like almost like speaking to him through this axe.
Okay. All right.
Do you think that him finding an axe is true?
Yes, I think that bit's true.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you think a dream told him?
No.
The dream will come back again.
Okay.
Everyone mentions the dream. So
Has he ever mentioned the dream?
It's sort of like the fact that we know about it suggests that he told us, right? But also this is where I think the folklore comes in. So he goes back down the mountain. At the time he's working with some fishermen. So he goes down to a fish factory and he's like, I've got to hide this axe. Because it's also like a piece of history at that point. So he hides it in the like volcanic fields. There's all these rocks. He hides it under some rocks. Goes on this fishing trip and he's like, lads, I found a Viking axe. Who wants to buy it? And they were like, no one, because you're a liar and you're a thief. Like they already didn't like him. And he was like, buy my axe. And they're like, I'm not buying anything of you, Bjorn. Just catch some fish. Yes. So they get back and he comes back with the axe. He disappears, comes back with the axe and was like, who's going to buy it now then? And they were all like, oh no, we poked the bear in the zoo. And that mad guy now has an axe. And like an old fisherman who works down there is like, you need to get that off him. If he has an axe, bad things will happen.
Yeah, because he's a lunatic.
Because he's a lunatic, yes. Very shortly afterwards, so he's 15 years old at this point.
Is that it?
Yeah, he's only 15 and he's working in a fish factory.
I'll have to reset what I'm imagining now.
Oh, really?
He's an older man, yeah. There we go.
I mean, he doesn't live very long. A spoiler alert. So a local cow herd just goes missing one day. Now, it's not a big population, so people going missing is very unusual. And they're like, don't know what happened. And he was only a young lad himself. Bjorn, that is his first murder. He goes up to the cow herd and he attacks him with the axe. He kind of chops his body up into different pieces and then he hides it in some manure. And when he confesses later on, he goes, there's a lovely load of flowers growing there now. And it's like, that's not...
Did it grow another man? Yeah.
So shortly after this time, Omar, the very kind rich guy who's kind of like, I believe in this kid, he passes away.
By axe?
No, he dies of natural causes, because I did look into that. So his son, Gudmundur, he inherits all the land. Now, because he's such good friends with Bjorn, he gives him a farm. And he's like, you work really hard for my dad, you're a hard worker. So he gives him a farm, and it's an amazing farm. And it's on this really beautiful peninsula.
You sound like Donald Trump. It's a
really beautiful farm.
It's the best farm,
But this is... I know this because it still exists.
Oh, okay.
So the farm, not the original buildings, but there's still a farm in that bit. It's right on the coast of Iceland on this peninsula. It's stunning. It's very fertile ground as well, in a time where, because it hadn't been farmed, the ground wasn't brilliant. So it was a very productive farm he's giving him as well. So they move there, and as a result of it being such a pretty place and an easier to farm place because the land is already good and at good quality, loads of people come through it to visit, to rest for a bit and to look for work. So there's a really high population of people moving in and out of that farm. Lots of them visit and then are never seen again. So rumours start. Also, Bjorn is like wearing nuts clothes that he couldn't afford.
Okay.
And they're like, where's he getting that stuff from? Also, why has he suddenly got 8 horses?
Oh.
So he was suddenly accumulating stuff. And he could kind of pass it off as in, the farm is doing very well, because it was. But they were like, there's doing well, and then there's you and your missus walking around wearing perfumes we know you can't afford, wearing clothes. Listen, it's jealousy, that's what I'm saying. It's, what is it,
some snakes out there.
There's some absolute snake. What is it Tories say? The cult, what is it, something of jealousy?
The cult of jealousy?
It's not the cult, is it? It's like the...
Culture.
Maybe it's the culture of jealousy that's just like... That's the problem with poor people. They don't work hard enough and they're just jealous. I'm like, yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah, that'll be it, won't it?
So...
There was a clip on something the other day and it was basically 2 blokes chatting about, privilege and if you're from a family with money, And this guy, a little piggy rich fella, He just went, well, I don't say, work harder. And I've just never wanted to. And in my head, and this is an awful thing to think, I thought, if I saw you and you were bleeding to death and I was the only person around, I'd pretend I got there too late.
Yeah.
Like, you horrible...
I'd be like, hold on to your blood harder.
You horrible...
The trickle-down effect will mean that you'll survive.
You horrible cunt.
Yeah, it's shit. And you know what? Some of it is tied up as well, is I think that when people are, and I say this as a privileged person, is that you think you've worked hard because you don't know how hard things can be. Well, and you think people are taking something away from you by saying you got privilege, but
the
you just
thing
do.
is, it's like, most people aren't jealous. Most people don't even consider what somebody who's rich has to a degree. People just want a comfortable life. People just want to be all right. You know, people don't want to be struggling. That's the thing. It's like, you're not jealous because you're not going, I want that big house. You're thinking, I want just to be right here, you know. It's
Do you know what,
gross.
also, I think those people that are like, oh, they're jealous, they're really good at hiding how fucking easy and how much money they have. Because privilege basically encompasses everyone from like, they've managed to repackage, so it now encompasses everyone from comfortable working class up to oligarchs, and so that's all one bracket of going, well, you know, you're incredibly privileged, and people are like, oh shit, yeah, I am privileged because I'm not using a food bank, and they're being lumped in with these people who like have nuts amounts of money in the bank, you know, just like never have to worry about anything, never have to. I mean, there's a lot of them where their offspring are doing comedy, but you know, like just this unbelievable level of wealth where they never have to think about things.
Yeah, it's mad.
And then, you know, they're made to feel the same as people who have like come from modest or very poor beginnings and are comfortable, and it's all now the same thing where it's like, no, you're very different, and you're lucky that we just don't know how rich you are.
You just reminded me of the psychic again. The psychic from last episode. This is what she said as well. She went, why am I getting the feeling that your dad is far away? Is he in spirit? And no, he just doesn't speak. That's it. He's there. He's not, you know.
He's on a coach trip today.
And then she went, yeah, exactly. I feel like there's not family money there. Would I be right? I'm like, yeah, I think if you're talking to me, the chances are you could ascertain that I'm not from a...
landed gentry.
Yeah. And she went, yeah, well, your dad, he'd like to help. He'd like to buy you a house if he could. Well, isn't that every parent?
Yeah.
Like, I'd like to buy my parents a house if I could.
Which is my thing of like, that's how I think. It's so hard to tell class, right? But here's one time I know that you're wealthy is that when people start to do well in comedy, they don't talk about helping their parents out.
Exactly.
If you're sending money to your parents, then I think that's quite a working class thing.
Yes, absolutely. The things you always think is like, oh, well, if I get that, I can do that. I was like, oh, I can do, and then, you know, sort of like, I can help, I can do this, I can sort that out. That person could do, you always thinking
I can clear someone's mortgage, or I could do this or do that.
That's what you're always thinking. I was thinking, like, it's like if I won the lottery, I'd like to win it because I'd be like, great, I could get my mum and dad this, or I could get my sister that, or my niece and nephew. That's it. And but yeah, there's people in comedy just like, especially comedy, that are like, oh, well, I have 3 houses, and that's really hard, actually.
It's a lot to struggle.
It's a lot of keys to carry around.
There's capital gains tax.
It's really difficult.
I'm really worried about selling because of the stamp duty. Anyway, so he's got this great farm, lots of people passing through. He's turning up with like extra horses. He's got, you know, like cool clothes on. Now, at the time, these labourers start going missing, and locally it's blamed on witches because...
Is it women's fault again?
It's women's fault. But like, this is a strange time where it's sort of Christianity washed in with Nordic stuff. And I mean, the Christians, like, although it's not witch heavy in the Bible, like the Christians really did lean into persecuting women.
Do you know, it's quite funny because I mentioned something on Twitter years ago about witches. And some bloke went, well, actually, you know, some men were executed for witchcraft. It's like, you can't even let us have this one we can't even be burned to death centuries ago without you wanting a piece of the action, can you? Back the fuck off.
It's got very much the same energy that when you talk about like the transatlantic slave trade and people like, actually some white people were stolen into, you know, what is it, indentured to slavery. And you're like,
Sit this one out. Please.
so, even though he had this farm that was beautiful, even though he had a wife, his wife he met was a local maid in a bar who'd always sort of serve on him, caught each other's eye, they'd settled down, he got married. He had this, he had a wife, he had a family, he had a great best mate who really looked after him. He lived in a beautiful place. He was prospering. He was incredibly grumpy and just and also you never knew if he was going to kick off, or he was very sort of disagreeable. So everyone kind of kept their distance. There's this example that's talked about in a lot of things where it's like a beautiful day, and I think some local farmers are sat down kind of enjoying the view, and he walks up to him and went, "Oh, it's dark days devoid of sunshine." And just those people, don't you? You're minding your own business and they come up and immediately talking about how shit everything is.
Like the guy that I used to work with, one day someone went, "Morning," he went, "Is it?" Yes.
So all this these rumours are swelling around. Now people kind of know that he can't be touched, even though they think he's stealing, basically.
Okay.
They think he's stealing. But because he's good friends with Gumunda, and Gumunda, because of his position as a wealthy, fair landowner, is the closest you have to a sheriff, although there are sheriffs. But that's who you would go to before you went to the authorities. He is the authorities. Everyone's there's absolutely no point in saying that Bjorn is doing anything because his best mate is running the show. So this is where things start to fall apart. Now, Gumunda is on his horse, probably doing a trot, as you know. We were talking about this before. I'm sure I've said this before. Icelandic ponies have a fifth gait. So you have walk, trot, canter, gallop with normal horses, and with Icelandic ponies it goes walk, trot, trot, canter, gallop. So it's this weird sort of very busy motion that it's fascinating to see because it looks really hard to stay on. It's like doing, it's very boring horse deep cut here, it's like doing a sitting trot on a Shetland pony is what I think it looks like. So it's this weird thing, but I think it's to do with being able to go over very bumpy volcanic ground for very long distances.
It was interesting, though, isn't it? I like that.
A lovely little slice of natural history.
I'm going to YouTube it in a bit.
You're going to YouTube Jolt.
YouTube it, yeah.
So he's on what I imagine is an Icelandic pony, and so Gumunda comes to his house, and he's like, "Oh, I'm absolutely I'm parched." So his wife's like, "Oh, I'll go and I'll get you some water." So he's on his horse, and she comes out with a jug. And Bjorn comes rushing out, and as he comes rushing out, he sees a handle for the axe poking out.
Oh my God.
And he's like,
"What's this guy doing?"
Yeah, and so he throws the jug because he thinks, I think there's something in that. I think there's poison in it. Turns his pony round and trolts off. And as he's going, Bjorn brings out the axe and he throws it after him and the pony. Now it injures the horse very badly, but Gumunda manages to get away. So this is his best mate, and he's like, "What the fuck? You're living on a farm that I have given you. What the fuck?" So he goes back to his house. The next day, Bjorn's wife comes around and is like, "I'm so sorry, he didn't mean it. He didn't mean it." So she apologises, and Gumunda's like, "Yeah, it's fine, it's fine." And she begs for his forgiveness, but the relationship has absolutely changed at that point.
Well, yeah.
Yes, that will do it, is throwing an axe at someone whilst they're on horseback. So this is where there's two versions of events about how he comes to justice. So one is a brother and sister have been out they're looking for work, they're soaked through, they stop at the farm, and him and his wife are like, "Yeah, don't worry, we'll sort you out." So they gave them dry clothes. They go to the wash house, the local wash house, and while they're in there, there's an old woman nursing a child, not nursing a child, but rocking a child. And every time Bjorn's wife goes out, she's like, "You shouldn't stay there." And then she comes back in again. She's like,
You just reminded me of then Stephen Bailey.
"Oh, really?
Comedian.
Babes, don't
stay there.
Don't stay there, babes." Oh my God. Christ alive. I love Stephen Bailey. So great. He's so funny, isn't he? And if you haven't seen Stephen Bailey, he's amazing. And he's absolutely brilliant live as well.
And an absolute scream in real life.
Oh my God, so funny. Great, isn't he? He's such a good laugh in a green room. So there's this woman, Stephen Bailey, not Stephen Bailey's a woman. So every time he leaves, he's like, "Oh, well, don't stay there." And basically she sort of sings this rhyme, which is along the lines of, and apologies for the, is sort of no one stays with good clothes. otherwise like blood flows. So there's something to do with, and obviously it's translated from the original anyway, but she's basically like going, people keep going missing and it's a bloody farm.
Just be honest, don't put something in a poem, people are just going to think you're weird.
Yes.
You warn somebody, warn them, don't make it a fucking riddle.
Yeah, don't use it as like a showcase for your spotlight.
Yeah, exactly.
So the kids are like, okay. So the brother and sister go back to the house where they're staying.
After being warned.
And after cleaning themselves up and putting on some new clothes of who knows whose. Now the boy wakes up at night and he hears this noise. He gets up and he goes out, and in the yard his sister is lying dead.
Oh!
And Bjorn is standing over her with the axe. And the brother's like, oh shit. Runs, and Bjorn chases after him, and he goes and he hides in the lava field in like a crevice, like a ravine, a divot.
Got you.
So he's hiding there, and then it starts to come light, and he runs down to the nearest town, and he speaks to like the next biggest farmer and says, listen, he's just killed my sister. And, you know, and then they say, okay. And then this farmer goes to Gamunda and says, we've got a witness to him killing someone. There's all these rumours about him anyway. It's kind of time that we did something about Bjorn. He's like, right, okay. So that's one version of what happens. The other one is that a woman with 3 kids comes to the farm and is looking for some shelter and some work. And while she's there, she sort of goes, I think, again, she goes away. The kids, she hears a noise. She goes out and Bjorn has killed the 3 kids.
Oh.
And she runs and escapes and goes down to the town and alerts authorities. So we don't know if it was a brother and sister. We don't know if it was a mum, but she was apparently incredibly traumatized, and the fact that she was so upset is the reason they believed her.
Okay.
Because the authorities knew something was going on, but they just didn't think. But now they had this witness, and it was like a woman who's distraught. So they thought, right, okay, this is enough of a
woman
case.
who's reacting in the correct way.
Yes, of course.
What they think
her wandering womb is playing up again. That is nuts, isn't it? The wandering womb thing.
What,
you know about this?
They thought it moved around your body?
Yeah, and that was what drove women insane. And the reason why women were so like, is because her womb was like wandering around her body, and the only way to get it to sort of stay put and therefore to be sensible was to put a baby in it.
Oh, okay. To put a bit of weight in it to
so to sort of secure it down.
what a load of rubbish.
Yeah, you can see why some people are anti-science, can't you? Because that was a scientific view for a while. I mean, in our lifetime, we've lost the planet. Don't get me started. Mad that, innit? I still feel a bit jarred when I see posters without little Pluto on it.
What are you going to do?
I thought you'd be more upset about this.
I don't like space. I've said this before.
I don't like sci-fi.
I have no interest in space.
Despite the fucking shelves behind me.
Well, you say you don't like science fiction. I say that, but Jurassic Park is science fiction.
Yeah, that's true.
And it's a classic. I'm not interested in space. I've said this before. I don't think as humans we need to know our limits. That is of none of our beeswax.
I agree.
I think that's why you get a weird feeling. When you think about the size of the universe and all that kind of stuff, that's why you get, because it's like, it's none of your business.
Can I just say, I never get that feeling and I never have that thought. My partner is like, when you think about the universe and how small you are. And I'm like, no. Because I'm like, I am the universe, baby. But I never think, oh God, I can't get there with it. I can't comprehend that. Don't diagnose me with something.
I had that feeling very young, like you realise you're a person, you're you, and then you think about, I live here, but that's on Earth and that's in the universe. Then you go, do you know what I mean, Owen? Yeah, like, and you have this thing, and that to me is like, that ain't your beeswax. Bottom of the sea, none of your business either. Top, bottom,
stick in the middle.
This is where, I don't actually think we should be flying in planes, but that's my theory. As a human, I feel that we've interfered with too much, and we have lost the essence of what we are.
I think there's a lot to be agreed with there.
More deep thoughts next episode.
Although, I don't know how well we're faring on the middle bit. Do you know what I mean?
No, and I know this sounds awful. I mean, do you ever Google, I don't enjoy life?
No.
And it's weird because
does it autocomplete though?
It automatically comes up with the Samaritans. I don't mean this in a morbid way. I just feel that life should be more enjoyable for people. quite hippie.
Rachel, can I ask you about something that relates to this?
Yeah.
What's your third space?
Is this about my arsehole?
I'd say that's your first place. No. So Maisie Adam was talking about this. So it's like a theory. You know, you have work and you have home, and then you've got to have a third space.
Oh, graveyards.
We'll spend more time in graveyards.
I do.
But, you know, so for her, she was saying, it's my football team. That's my third space.
Right,
That's
yes.
because it gives you, and years ago it would have been church, right? And for some people it still is, before you fucking email in.
Yeah.
You know, it's a like a religious, but it's a space where you are nourished and supported, basically, and edified.
It's anything historical, nature, history, old buildings, graveyards.
You need to pop in your third space
That's
more,
my
mate.
third space. That's me. I mean, my third space is hanging out around dead people. But no, that's where I'm very happy in places like that. But yeah, what I mean is, like, I just feel that, you know, it's like this should be more enjoyable for more people. Like, we're so bogged down in shite that we should be, like, just existing and that should be enough, you know. That's what I mean. So when you Google, I don't enjoy life, it's like, no, I'm not going to throw myself off a bridge, you know. What I mean is, like, how do we...
It's not rewarding. It's not like nourishing or edifying.
No, I am happy, but I just think there's more that I should be enjoying more, you know. Maybe it's just not having the time, but I don't know. I just think...
Yeah, it does sound like a work-life balance thing. I think there'll be loads of people who...
I'm
like,
spiritually imbalanced is the problem. Anyway, do tell me about this guy.
I think his third space is murdering farm workers.
Absolutely.
Boys are good at... It's axe time.
I
So...
farm, I'm a husband, and I do axe time.
So, he gets arrested.
Ooh.
Yeah, so they're basically the local sort of like farmers go to Gamunda and go, you've got to do something about him. And he's
I imagine like
okay,
this
fine.
when they like Gaston, when he's going to kill the
Yes.
beasts with the sticks on fire.
Gaston's fit. He doesn't get credit for that.
Belle would have. I don't care what anyone says. 100%.
Yeah, absolutely. So they go and they kind of they take him into custody. Let's say he immediately confesses to 18 murders.
It's
Well,
the
no,
whole
actually,
population, is it not?
he confesses to 9 murders.
Okay.
To a lawyer, and then they basically search his farm and they find 18 different
Wow.
bodies. Now this is where the dream comes back, because the 19th was going to be either the brother or the mum, and just like that meat that made him sick and not want anymore, the 19th murder that he was about to commit is what sort of hoisted him by his own petard.
Okay.
So that's where they think the dream comes in. It was foretelling or foreshadowing. So he confesses everything to a lawyer. They search the farm and they find bits of body absolutely everywhere. Now he says, yeah, you are going to find that actually, but I only killed 9 people. And they're like, what about all the bodies on your farm? And he said, I'm glad you asked. I found those elsewhere, and then I just didn't want to bother the authorities with them. And I didn't want to take it to a cemetery, so I just buried them. I just reburied them. That's what all that is. And they were like,
Okay,
yeah, you're lying. You're lying.
liar.
You killed 18 people.
Fucking hell.
So he used to, basically his MO was he used to, transient people would pass through, which is a really common thing with all serial killers, of people like coming and going. Transient people would, and they might annoy him, or he might just be coveting something they had, and he would chop them up with the axe.
It would annoy.
And then he would dump them in a nearby mere, and that's where he was largely disposing of the bodies. So
Martin Mere Holiday Park. Do you remember that?
No.
Did you not get the adverts for that?
No.
Martin Mere Holiday Park.
Where is that?
I think it's near Blackpool.
Love it. So while he's confessing, he also says, my wife was involved as well, and throws his pregnant wife under the bus. Now, he is executed in 1596. Ooh. The person who is largely responsible for the execution is his uncle, because it's a very small area.
Lovely.
And he apparently he's like
rustic.
He has a very, very full-on execution. So they used the wheel on him, which is where they would, which is where you'd sort of stretch out on a wheel. But some people say there's lots of different things. Some people say he was hanged. I don't think he was. what is most likely to have happened is that his incisions were made below sort of big bones, and then those were the sort of marks to smash between by his uncle. And apparently he didn't complain, he didn't pass out during all this, and there's more stuff to get into. And he said, Uncle rarely breaks a bone while in secret. So he's like doing bits while he's being executed. You know what I say about Uncle? Never breaks a bone in secret. So he's on this, they think it was like a cross that he sort of held to. His bones are smashed. And then they remove limbs, but they do it with the knife is basically cauterizing the wound to keep him alive longer. So they cut the limbs off, but obviously it sort of sears through, so he doesn't die from loss of blood. Hell. And then so he's cut into several pieces, and then he's beheaded, and then
Jesus Christ.
Each piece is mounted on a stake. Now,
lovely touch.
There's a really very weird facet to this where they're removing his penis, and depending on what you listen to, they either remove his penis, throw it at his wife, or remove his penis and pop it on her lap.
Bit of fun.
Or she said, if anyone's going to cut off that dick, it's going to be me, and she cuts his willy off. So I don't know which one you want to pick as your preferred method.
I like the third one.
Okay. Yes.
What is this? Choose your own
penis ending. So yes, he's sort of held up on stakes. Now the Icelandic people start to get the fear that he will come back as a Draker, which is basically their living dead, their zombie.
Okay.
And so they're like, Oi! So they split the body into 4, and they go and bury them under kind of cairns, like big piles of stones, one of which still remains today that you can go and visit, but the others have been sort of displaced. And it was the idea is that those bodies should never come back together, because they think because of how evil he was, he would rise up and kill the inhabitants of Iceland. She gives birth. She is sentenced to death also because of her roles in the crime. It's so funny because when they went onto the house, by the way, when they were like, they said to him, they're like, have you been murdering people and stealing it from me? He's like, no. And they were like, where's that hood from? And he's like, I don't remember. And they were like, where's that shirt from with silver buttons, really distinct silver buttons? And he's like, I just think it's really rude that you're asking these questions. And then they brought in some farmhands, and they were like, do you recognise that shirt? And they were like, oh yeah, that guy who went missing 2 years ago wore that shirt. And that's when they were like, you're arrested, mate. So yes, she is not sentenced to death. Her punishment is watching him be executed in this manner.
It's fine.
But if you believe the old, I'll chop the dick off, she's not having that bad a time. So she gives birth to a boy, which is Bjorn's son, called Sven. Sven grows up also to be a criminal, and he is hung in 1648 for attempted rape.
Wow.
In the time that he's alive, he has a son. That son, Gisli, grows up to be executed for being a criminal as well.
Ooh.
So they were like, he's got bad spunk. Bjorn's got really bad spunk. So
wow.
Yeah.
Grim.
So there you go. Iceland's only serial killer who had a dream about some chunks of meat. Basically, he went to Ben Brazil.
Ben Brazil?
And then, I love a bit of Ben Brazil.
I've never been.
Really?
No, I'd like to. Though.
I don't know if it's just a Manchester chain, but people will have been to these Brazilian barbecue things where you have like a token that's green and red on one side, and they come round and cut you off bits of stuff. Yeah. Listen, as a vegan, I absolutely love them. I miss them. The buffet in the middle is pretty good, but it's not the same as...
I enjoyed that.
It's good, isn't it?
It's good, that one.
You know what I don't like? And this is me being like a churlish
little madam
white person, is when in Ben Brazil they come around, they've got these amazing steaks. They'll cut you off different steaks, and there's like chicken thighs and things like that, and these really good sausages. And then they're like chicken's hearts, and you're like, no, thank you.
I don't eat thighs.
Really?
No. I don't eat chicken. I don't eat meat on bones. I don't eat thighs.
Don't you feel like a brilliant like Tudor king when you eat meat on the bone?
Never done it. The idea of it knocks me sick.
Really?
Yeah. I tell you what I did have the other week. I went full vegan in the pub across the road from me, Calabash Kitchen at the Rose and Crown in Walthamstow.
Oh yeah.
Grenadian food.
Oh
my God. In fact, when you're here next, we'll go. It was brilliant.
Great. Yeah, we'll do that.
Delish.
So
but you ain't going to get me eating curried goat, no way.
So that was beyond... Why? Because you like goats? Or you just
I just wouldn't eat any animal, and it's on bones, and I'm not eating goats, I'm not eating sheep, I'm not eating lamb.
I mean, I heard you were going off meat altogether.
I am, to be honest. And after I saw that fucking chicken eating that mouse before, I'm out. Like the old woman who swallowed a fly. No, thank you.
So yeah, that is Axlar Björn, as he's known. Iceland's only serial killer.
Very good, I like that one.
Björn Pétursson, he's good, isn't he?
Yeah, he is good.
I was like, I feel like we're missing a trick. This would be a good live show.
Yeah, it would be a great live show,
Whoops. But we've picked our live shows for... we've picked Halloween. Oh, no, we haven't picked
Christmas.
Halloween. But I found one for Halloween.
Oh,
yes.
Tell us when we stop.
Thanks so much for listening and watching. And
Tickets for your tour?
Oh, yes, tickets for my tour are on sale now. When will this be coming out? June. Guys, you've still got time to get tickets for my massive show in Cardiff. That's the one that I'm so scared of. But thank you very much to everyone who's come to the tour and said nice things about it. And look at me assuming people have said nice. From the previews, I'm getting lovely messages. So thank you very much. And if you're coming to my tour show, please, I'm collecting Pens for Kids UK, and they collect pens and they distribute them globally to kids so they can carry on their education. So if you've got we've all got drawers full of pens that we're not using, bring some along.
I'm just going to the Edinburgh Fringe, that's it.
That's just going to the biggest international arts festival in the world.
Do come.
To get absolutely alienly violated by accommodation, which costs way too fucking much.
Hey, I booked mine well in advance. It's still expensive.
Go on, spill the beans. Are you comfortable saying?
Student accommodation.
Thousands, right?
Oh, thousands, yeah. Thousands.
For 3 weeks?
Yeah.
For a double bed and an ensuite?
No, single bed.
Single bed.
Ensuite. I'll tell you when we get off here.
Fucking mad. Well, I will tell you exactly how much I paid for a flat in Edinburgh, which I'm still legally complaining about because one of the rooms was a cupboard. It wasn't a mezzanine, it was a mattress in an airing cupboard. The only window led into the kitchen, which is illegal.
Have you complained about it?
I'm going to take it up with Equity. Going to get their legal team on it. And then where are we doing the Christmas show? Oh, are we allowed to say that yet?
I don't think so. Better not.
But don't worry, it is a place that everyone complained that we didn't do. There's a big clue.
Don't want to hear it anymore now.
They complained that we didn't do it.
And I tell you now, if that doesn't sell out,
we'll never go back.
There will be blood.
Which could have been the name of this episode.
Yes.
Thanks so much for listening and and for supporting us. We always appreciate it. Bye.